Hello, I'm Bodo Sieber, CEO and co-founder of Tagmarshal. Thanks to Founders Events for having me. Very exciting, even though the format is a bit different than anticipated. Start local, scale global is my theme for the day, and I want to share a bit of our story, some expansion learnings as we've gone global, and obviously some funding lessons, which is why you're all here. A little bit about myself. I'm 41 years old. I've got two kids, which there's a high chance that you'll hear them running around the background. That's just a new normal. I'm a previous founder, having co-founded betterplace.org in Berlin. I'm a German national, and I've also founded another software business in Cape Town. And so Tagmarshal is my fourth business that I'm involved in. Let me take it away. So Tagmarshal is a B2B software as a service golf course optimization platform. So what we do is we optimize golf operations so that they run efficiently and that they get the most out of their asset by managing and controlling anything that happens out on the field, which is basically traffic management, if you will. And we use data analytics, we use IoT technology, and we use some AI to make that happen. And ultimately, the goal is to provide the best possible play experience and to optimize efficiency so that the operators can save money and obviously maximize revenue, which is exciting and interesting for any business. Start local, scale global is something that we technically did, but in reality skipped quite a few steps on. And here's the reason. So our market, which is a very defined vertical, has got 34,000 courses globally. And as you can see, immediately half of those are in one country, which is the US. So to give an example, South Africa has got 550 clubs that we could target. Florida alone has got 1,400. So it's very obvious early on for us that if we wanted to create a real groundbreaking business, we needed to move away from this local market because it's simply not big enough. And if you think about it, that is something that unless you're designing and defining and innovating a solution for South Africa, for Africa specifically, where Africa is a big market in itself, that is a reality that you might be faced with. And also overseas and in the global context, it's just a massive business. I mean, $68 billion contributed to the US economy. Right now, that's obviously all taken a dip, but that's a reality we have to also deal with and be resilient about. And that is something that we are actively adding value to. Yeah, to give you an idea of how we've grown. So nothing is an overnight success. It started very humbly in 2014, where the concept was come up with. On a golf course, a problem that is very, very obvious one in the game is that it takes quite long to play, and often if it's not managed well, you have to wait, and that's very frustrating for players. And this is how my business partners saw that there was a gap in the market and then contacted me and my good friend and business partner, because we were the tech guys, and said, is there not something that you guys can help us build here? So we partnered up, and in 2015, had a proof of concept ready that we introduced quite early on at the PGA show just to test the waters, that's a big golf expo. And then we grew that basically doubling year on year, or doing more than double in revenue over the years. And now we've got almost 300 clubs that optimize with our system. That is still a fraction of the global market, but it's certainly a real business at this stage. So what we do is we optimize the play experience, we control the field flow and the pace of play. Traffic management, as I said, we provide operational oversight with actionable data, which is in this space that is quite traditional to using IoT technology, and tech is quite innovative and quite different. Ultimately, the end game is to save costs and maximize revenue. And that we're doing really well, which is what explains why we've been able to grow so nicely. So at this point, we've tracked 10 million rounds of golf. We've got about 1 billion data points, which are exciting for us. for those of you who know the game, you're missing out on a lot this year, unfortunately. So Winged Foot, where the US Open is hosted, is one of our clubs. Then Le National last year, 2 years ago in France, where the Ryder Cup was hosted, one of our partners, Pebble Beach, you would have hopefully watched the US Open last year. So there's a lot of big name courses that are using our system successfully, but the majority of our courses, that middle of the road course and club, that makes up for the majority of play that happens. And obviously 80% of our revenue comes out of the US at this point. So we have, from solving a very single-minded problem in the game, which is to speed up the play and make it better in terms of management, we have evolved into a golf course optimization data platform, because data has been really powerful for us, and we have positioned ourselves successfully as a class and thought leader, and we are now a trusted industry partner, obviously a few years in. So you can see that here, Forbes has picked up on us, and if they say it has to be true, then we were at the USGA's, which is the United States Golf Association's Innovation Symposium, on stage with a few of our sort of data and research projects that we helped them with. And the European Tour, for instance, is one of our tech partners, just an example. So those are the things that that happen over time if you keep at it. This is our stand as it looks now at the PGA show, which is quite sizable. And obviously when we first got there, it was very tiny and insignificant, and we were very green, but that's the evolution of any business. Global expansion learnings. What have we learned? So right now we've got 3 setups. One is in Ireland, one is in Cape Town, and one is in Atlanta. And we're serving 10 countries out of that. Obviously, quite a few of those are within Europe, which we look at as one market, but it's also not one market, which I'll get to now. Then at this stage, Australia over here should be green, because we're making some inroads there. South Africa, obviously, we've got a few clubs, but mostly in the US, and within that, there's a few hot pockets, and the East Coast is quite busy for us, in Florida as well. So that is our global expansion. Some of the learnings that I would urge you to heed as a bit of advice is, every market's got its own picture where you need to find your first innovators and early adopters. And every market, no matter how well established you are in the previous market, will have that picture. And that goes down to city level and county level. In every single one, so if you're good to go in one state and you've got 20, 30 happy customers, you still need to go through that in another state and start it all over again. So what you need to learn from that is that momentum builds momentum. So it pays to stick with certain areas and certain hot pockets. Don't dilute your efforts and go out and chase every single customer. So there are a lot of markets that we have not accessed and that we have said no to, because we realize that they're difficult to access, and the amount of effort it would take us to be successful, say in Japan or elsewhere, with cultural barriers, language barriers, and so on, would take us away from really growing in a market that we already have momentum. And the other lesson that's very important is you need to find and value those innovators and early adopters. So you don't go for the people who will form part of the late majority, because they are not going to go with your solution, no matter how good your presentation is, and no matter how much sense it makes to you, and maybe even to them, they just won't. So find those early adopters and find those innovators and see them through and make them happy. And that takes 3 years. And then only then will you see that curve ticking up. And it's, as I said, it's the same. So if we this season opening up a new market, Germany, for instance, we need to find our first early adopters in that space, and they're obviously more risk tolerant. Even though we are well established, it's still a risk and a perceived risk. So we have to take the market through the paces as far as that's concerned, and that is something that you need to be mindful of. So don't look at a global opportunity as something that is unified. Every market, it's got its own dynamics, and they pretty much look like this. Funding lessons, the last part of what I would like to share. So I've shown you the growth trajectory. So we did a lot of bootstrapping initially to get traction, and we were going to bootstrap this forever. But we then quickly realized that we can do so much more in the market, and we can grow faster if we have some funding. And then we got friends, family, and fools, and early angels to come along. So this is really how it goes. And we did have more established funder conversations initially, but because we were so early stage, even at this level here, where there was traction, we could show that the product works well, we could show people are willing to pay for it, and there's nice growth. Those more traditional funders, they need to de-risk because, and that's the VC space, because they're investing other people's money. So in order for them to do that, if they even go and look at you at that point, they will ask for a lot. So, and if your conversation then goes down to, yeah, we'll help you with X, but we will take 70% of your shares, which you can then claw back if you are successful, then that's a conversation that you're probably not going to conclude. At the same time, you need to learn from those. So angels are your best bet, especially initially, and there you are looking for mentors, well-networked people that will open doors for you, that will guide you strategically, and they're really super, super important that you find the right people. And only later on, only at this stage, are you going to sort of branch into the VC space. Also, you need to write a certain ticket for a VC to even consider having a conversation with you, because it's a lot of effort to go through a due diligence, and it's a lot of effort to make this all work for them, as it will be for you. So they're not going to waste their time to write a small ticket, and it has to be a certain size. Lastly, some more lessons along the road. So if you're starting out, 2 founders is great. As a single person, you're probably not going to make it. And if there's 5 of you, also not a good idea necessarily, because 5 people, there's a lot of dynamics, and also you need to think future. So if your business takes off and you have a number of funding rounds, eventually, if you're starting at 20%, you'll be diluted down to 10 or single digits fairly soon, and that starts to hurt, even though the business value at that point hopefully is quite high, but you're just starting off a low base. So 2 founders, great, because you need to shoulder this together, and it's like a marriage, there's ups and downs. The next point is funders have options, they do, and funders, angel investors, VCs, they look at many opportunities every week, and that's their job. And it's a bit like dating. You have to find the right match. So many of them will say, no, that's not for us, or the market's too narrow, or we are very hot on fintech right now, and that's not something that we might look at. But that's fine, just learn. And very key is that you are 100% accountable, even if it's not going anywhere. Make those conversations count, because they all know other people. So your network that you're building is absolutely key. And ultimately, it also comes down to you understanding that you have options, because you might say no to a funder who's lining up, and prefer another one, because they're smarter money, and they'll help you more down the road, or it's a better match. And again, it's a bit like a mix of dating versus applying for a job. So, so you need to find the right match, and it's a 2-way street. And if you are accountable, and if you say and do what you say you're going to do every single time, make sure that you take all of these conversations seriously, but also you're honest and you're truthful. You cannot pretend to be something that you're not. And these guys know that you don't have all the answers. These guys know that you are going to make mistakes, and that's fine. And they want to know how you're going to deal with it if that happens, because it'll happen. And so, yeah, be open to that, and don't rehearse, be authentic. It's and if you're not 100% convinced that it's going to work, and if you're not passionate about it, then why would they back you? And they'll know that too. And they've got enough conversations to figure out that the cream rises to the top. So yeah, I hope that you found that insightful. If you want to know more about how our system works, check us out online, tagmarshal.com. And good luck with the challenges over the coming weeks and months. It's going to be groundbreaking, change-making. Never waste a good crisis, they say, right? So all the best to you guys.
Hey, Leo here, one of the founders of Outsourced CFO. If you enjoyed this video, make it official. Click subscribe.